he's left his notebook. Now, I've always wanted to get my hand on it. Thanks for the introduction, Jim, and those kind words. You're still not getting the pay rise that you're looking for. What a fantastic turnout, and can I say how delighted I am. It's a pleasure for me to be able to speak to you today, and the value that we as a union attach to the work that you're all doing. You know, I often get involved in lots of issues. Some of it ends up in the TV and the media and the television, but the best thing for me as General Secretary is I get an opportunity to meet decent, good people like yourselves, or activists. Without activists like yourselves, our union simply wouldn't run. General Secretaries come and go, but you're the people who represent the true face of our union and the people that kind of drive forward what we're doing. And we recognise the benefits that lifelong learning can bring to increase dignity and respect for all of us in our communities and our workplaces. The Unite ESOL course is part of driving forward that agenda, and I'm proud and delighted to be able to launch it here today. Migrant workers like yourself give Unite a value beyond its mere functionary role. Allow me here to quote Mary Robinson. Mary was the President of the Republic of Ireland and has recently served as chair of the World Justice Programme. She said, "Change can't be delivered through well-intentioned promises for a future. Change requires timetables, outcomes, and a keen awareness of power relationships. For those who have, they can always argue that tomorrow is the right time for change. For the have-nots, today is not soon enough." And that really is a fantastic quote when you think about it, and it's the context of the lifelong learning within Unite. Lifelong learning is a key part of our union's agenda. It's at the forefront of our ambition for our members, ensuring that education is not only readily available, but much more importantly than that, it's promoted in the workplace. Education is in itself worth pursuing for our own members. It brings with it so many pleasures and personal benefits which are themselves invaluable. No doubt all of you will have had your own personal stories of how learning has changed you, not simply in your role as an employee or a union member, but perhaps how it's changed you in your personal life as well, perhaps as a father or mother, uncle or auntie. Because education changes all of us, and that is why it remains a priority of mine, a priority of our union in Unite. Jim was kind enough to tell you that I was his full-time official when he was a young activist, and I was, and he was a handful, I can tell you. But what he also missed out on was Jimmy went on to be one of the great educationalists, not only in the Northwest, but then ultimately nationally and in the whole of our movements. And I'm pleased to say that I've been at the receiving end of some of the education that Jimmy's proudly presented and our unions presented. And I'm a product of that education, and that's why it's extremely important and why it will always remain a priority. For us as a union, there's another role for learning and education, a role that complements our work as the most effective voice of organised labour. We're proud to use learning as a tool for recruiting members and retaining them, building a relationship with our members and giving them a confidence and sense of achievement that for some may have never been available elsewhere. Confidence is the most important word in the 40 years that I've been representing working people that has driven everything that is successful. When working people are confident, anything is possible. And that's why education is such a key role in developing that confidence. Education gives our members empowerment, and it also strengthens our union. First and foremost, Unite must be a union that effectively organises members in the workplace to win better pay terms and conditions. And education of our members in the workplace is a catalyst for achieving those objectives. Before universal education, trade unions were the bodies that wanted to educate working class communities. Certainly the ruling elite didn't want us educated then, and they don't want us educated now. The Workers' Education Association was first established in 1903 and provided working men and women with the opportunity to get an education. The slogan, educate, agitate, organise, encapsulated how workers could improve their lives. And if you just think for a moment, isn't it a wonderful slogan? Educate, agitate, organise. It tells us all we need to know about the emancipation of the working classes and the role that organised labour played in achieving it. And you know, we have a proud history and tradition that was successful and that we should be absolutely proud of ourselves. Trade unions have always been a force for good. From the abolition of child labour, the struggle of women's suffrage, through the fight against fascism, the building of the welfare states, the creation of the National Health Service, right up to the equal pay and health and safety legislation that we have today, and the family-friendly policies, including the minimum wage. Trade unions have always been on the side of the angels. And that's why it has always been so important for me that we never forget the role of education and the role it plays in the work we do. In the workplace, day in, day out. That's what brings about the achievements I'm talking about. Education changes lives. It changes our life chances and our life choices and the choices and lives of our children. It gives us a voice, it can give us power for good. And all of you know that. You're making this a reality. All of you here are making it a reality. And I also want to tell you about the successes our union is having elsewhere. So that when you go back to your workplaces and your communities, you can be confident about the good work Unite is doing. We've come a long way since we started this education programme in 2007. Although we all know there is a lot more to do, and we're committed to doing it. The initiatives we have launched are changing our union for the better. Deregulation and greater freedoms for bad employers will not prevent us from defending our members and organising effectively. You'll have read and heard, maybe you're going to hear a lot more about our so-called leverage strategy. The ruling elite are trying to paint it as something evil. Well, that tells me that we must be effective in what we're doing, and we're going to continue to do that. Through collectivism, solidarity and effective trade unionism, workers can organise in new, innovative ways to win, knowing that their union will be backing them all of the way. Our 100% campaign means that Unite Workplaces will be the best organised and the most effective union of any union in the UK and beyond. We're developing our e-commerce strategy to engage with a new generation of union members, making our communications the best in the movement. And let's not forget how our young people today have been politicised by a government that is determined to attack them and failed by an economy that offers no jobs. 1 million of our kids on the dole, surrounded by doom and gloom. The danger of another lost generation. And it's our duty to give them hope for the future. If not us, who else is going to step forward to give that hope? Take our community membership as well, a new innovation exclusively developed and implemented by Unite. For the first time, those not in employment are welcome into the union family. Anyone who's not working from the age of 16 to 116, welcomed into the union family, adding another dimension to our strength across the UK. We're offering training to individuals who want to become community activists so that we can empower people. Because with the cuts that this government is implementing, There are literally millions of our people who are becoming disenfranchised, with nowhere to turn, nowhere to give help and assistance and advice. And we want our Unite family to welcome them on board so that we can assist. Our activists work in their communities, building up groups, educating. There's that word again, educating people, empowering people to work collectively to do something for themselves. And it's working in practical ways. In Leeds, community groups are campaigning against workfare and organising regular demonstrations against employers engaged in this modern-day slavery. In London, they've organised benefit buddying, linking the unemployed with people in work. In Sheffield, they've set up a phone trip to protect their members in case of eviction from their homes and the dreaded bedroom tax. And community members across the country are demonstrating their support for our industrial members in their disputes by supporting pickets and protests, united in struggle. Our schools programme is another initiative, and we're determined to visit every 15-year-old across the UK every year to educate young people about the role of trade unions in our society, something the school curriculum should do, but doesn't. Unions are by far the largest voluntary organisation in our country, and yet according to our lords and masters, don't warrant a mention in civic studies. Well, we'll change that. And then there is the class think tank. I've just attended their first conference before coming here. For the first time, we are bringing together academics and political and economic scholars to forward credible ideas that have for too long been hidden by the mainstream media because they challenge the orthodoxy of austerity and cuts. This constant drip feed that we've been getting, that there is no alternative to austerity and cuts and misery. But we reject that and we say there is an alternative. It's called investing in our communities as opposed to breaking them. And the idea of the class think tank, a progressive think tank on the left, is to intellectualise many of the slogans that a lot of us have used for a number of years now. And finally, there's our political strategy. In 2015 and 2020, we must reverse the decline in working class representation in Parliament and see more MPs in the House of Commons that have our values of decency, fairness, justice and equality. That's how our union is changing for the better. This is a new, modern, progressive union. Unite is a union that puts the interest of our members first, a union led by its members, and hopefully with a General Secretary that will always be on their side. Your role is and will remain central to our future. I've been stunned, Jimmy, I have to tell you this, literally, by the number of ordinary members that have talked to me about their experiences of our education programmes. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Jim, and your staff and your team within the education arena that do a fantastic, fantastic job of work for us. Members have told me how they learn with Unite, and their learning has fundamentally changed their lives. All our union learning organisers are working on at least 100% campaign, and that's so that they understand the political priorities and the industrial priorities of our union. Learning organisers offer support to the campaigns, working with and alongside the officer responsible and offering flexible educational opportunities. By December of this year, the English project will have trained another 500 union learning representatives in less than 2 years. What an incredible and fantastic outcome, and you should be very proud of that, Jim. I'm proud that we use our learning agenda as an organising tool to build our union through the training we offer. I'm proud that we always work with union learning reps and officers to negotiate a learning agreement with employers. To date this year, we've negotiated a further 36 new learning agreements, and we'll be expanding this in every region and sector of Unite. Every weekend in London, we have at least 150 migrant workers attending a Unite organised informal education programmes. The reason this is informal is because they are disenfranchised from the education funding stream, and therefore, if it was not for Unite, there would be very